Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to be doing a reading and critique of something from the Watchtower. The Watchtower announcing Jehovah's Kingdom, July 2014. I don't know if that's monthly or seasonally that they put these things out because I don't have a subscription to it. Strangely enough, there's no Jehovah's Witnesses in this house. I've never gone to a Kingdom Hall for whatever kind of services they have, and we don't have any neighbors that are Jehovah's Witnesses. But we get their publication in the mailbox with no carrot sort information. No indication that this was actually handled by a mail carrier from the United States Postal Service or anything else that was legally allowed to put stuff in our inbox, into our mailbox. But, I'm pretty sure God's okay with the ends justifying the means there to get his message out, because the law of the land is nothing compared to God's will. Gotcha. And I'm pretty sure some of you have been raised with enough background to understand where these Jehovah's Witnesses are coming from. The presupposition that sin has something to do with what you deserve. So, we're going to start on page 4 after a bit of a forward in this edition. And my selected reading comes from Being in the Wrong Place at the Wrong Time. Identifying one reason why humans suffer, the Bible states, time and unexpected events overtake them all. That's Ecclesiastes 9:11. When unanticipated events or accidents happen, whether someone is affected or not depends to a large extent on where he is at the time that they occur. Nearly 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ spoke of a calamity involving 18 people who were killed when a tower fell on them. That's Luke 13, 1-5. They did not become victims because of the way that they had lived their lives. They were simply under the tower when it happened to fall. More recently, a devastating earthquake struck Haiti in January 2010. The Haitian government says that over 300,000 lives were lost. All of those lives were claimed without regard for who the individuals were. Illnesses, too, can strike anyone at any time. Now, putting down this issue for a second, I'd like to say that I actually like that interpretation of how God and the world operate a lot better than Pat Robertson's, the Haitians got hit with that earthquake because their ancestors sold their souls to Satan, and they deserve it. I like this Jehovah's Witness interpretation better on a humanistic level. It doesn't hurt people. It doesn't condemn people because of your understanding. It's a lot nicer. But we continue. Some might ask, could not God prevent such deadly calamities from happening? Could he not shield the good people from the calamity? For God to intervene in such ways, it would mean that he knows about bad things before they happen. While God certainly has the ability to foreknow the future, the question we need to consider is this: does God choose to exercise a limitless extent, or to a limitless extent, his power to foreknow such things? And then it cites Isaiah 42:9. And it says, the scriptures say, God is in the heavens, he does whatever he pleases. Psalm 115:3. Jehovah does what he deems necessary to do, not everything he is capable of doing. That applies also to what he decides to foresee. For example, after wickedness became prevalent in the ancient cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, God told the patriarch Abraham, I will go down to see whether they are acting according to the outcry that has reached me, and if not, I can get to know it. Genesis 18:20. For a time, Jehovah chose not to know the extent of the wickedness in those cities. Similarly, then, Jehovah can choose not to foreknow everything. Genesis 22:12. In no way is this an indication of imperfection or weakness on his part, since perfect is his activity. No citation. God balances his ability to foreknow the future with his purpose. He never forces humans to follow a certain course. And then they cite Deuteronomy 32:4. What then may we conclude? Simply this: God's exercise of foreknowledge is selective and discretionary. And that's what I'd really like to just talk about for a bit. I don't see how that sort of outlook on how God operates removes culpability from God. If God chose to not foresee a certain type of event, that means at one point he knew what the events were and decided to put blinders on himself to not know them. And he made a decision at that point which events he was going to know about happening and which ones he was not going to know. That means that he knew that he was going to be blind to your plight when an unexpected to you and him accident happens. At one point he did know, and he decided to not know. That doesn't make him the good guy in this. That means he chose to have an intentional blind eye in this. You know, some of you might be thinking about Epicurean problems of evil, or I guess just omniscience in general. You know, just problems with that. But this to me seems like only an argument that it would only work in the Kingdom Hall. It would only work if this was all that you ever knew. It would only work if every time somebody saw an indication of imperfection or weakness, the quote, perfect is his activity, just washed your mind clean. Like, you see something that looks kind of like imperfection, but you have to remember the rule, perfect is his activity. And then every time you see that, you just drop whatever problem that you have with logic, and you just trust that perfect is his activity. You know? Because that is the, I guess, key to the city. That is the fix-all for everything that you might have a problem with God about. Perfect is his activity. Well, it's not perfect if you can see where it's imperfect. You know? To say that God's exercise of foreknowledge is selective and discretionary is to say that he is not all-knowing. And if you can't understand the hypocrisy of stating that he's all-knowing and that he's discretionary about what he allows himself to know, if you can't understand that, then maybe you don't want to understand. Maybe you're using that perfect is his activity as a band-aid to keep you from having to deal with reality and having to deal with all of the problems you see with your religion. But at least, I'll give him this. On this issue alone, I find that the Jehovah's Witnesses are a lot nicer than some of the other denominations in how they would see how bad things happen to you. You know, like, why did you get raped? Well, you must have deserved it. You know, God is sending you this test of your faith. Anything like that seems a lot meaner than, well, shit just happens because God decided to have selective amnesia. So, I guess good on them for being nicer about it, but bad on them for just deciding to not think about things and hide behind platitudes.